It's time for your Low Country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me this morning. I am your host, Brian Beatty. And over the next hour, we're going to talk about all things real estate here on this program. If this is your first time tuning in, again, I'm your host, Brian Beatty. I've been in the top 1% of agents here in Charleston since 2009. And I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you, the listener, information about real estate. So I talk a lot about market data, stats, stories, experiences that I've had that I like to share, so that you, the listener, if you're considering buying, selling, or investing in real estate, can take that information, use it to your advantage, and become a listener and consumer with a leg up on the competition. If you'd like to reach out to me at any point, feel free to do so. Best way to do that is to call me personally. My cell phone number is 843-345-1273, or feel free to go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that website, you can take a look at everything I have for sale, everything I have sold, look at some of my listings. You can search any home for sale in the Charleston area listed by any agent or any real estate company. And if you're considering selling your home, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn a little bit more about what I do to market my properties for sale, and you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. And that very simply states, I will sell your home in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission. I'll sell it for 4.5% commission. So the listing website for that, again, listingsincharleston.com. Let me tell you about what I want to talk about over this hour. First of all, I had a very interesting conversation with one of my neighbors about what it is that real estate agents actually do. And I'm going to tell you about that conversation. That's what we're going to focus on first. A little later on in the program, I want to talk about owner financing. This whole idea of rent to own or owner financing, seller financing. What does it mean? What are your options? What are the benefits and disadvantages to both the buyer and the seller? So I want to focus on that for a while. A little bit later on in the program, I had a very interesting thing happen to one of the buyers that we work with, and I want to share that story with you. It was a multiple offer situation, and I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm going to tell you what this listing agent did as a way of trying to basically strong arm my client into accepting a contract. I want to tell you that story because it's a good story. And then finally, at the very end of the program, I'm going to spend some time talking about the mixed signals that you get when you, and I understand that that's a little ironic coming from a radio show host talking about real estate, but I want to talk about the mixed signals that we get on a day-to-day basis if you were to go online and just try and find out what's going on in the real estate industry. And that's one of the best parts about being on this program, is being able to share factual data with you so that you can use it to your advantage. We can create a realistic expectation for our market. We can set some goals, and we can hopefully accomplish what you're set out to do. So that's going to be toward the end of the program. Again, if you'd like to reach out to me, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. So let me tell you about this conversation I had with a neighbor of mine. Very interesting conversation. Let me kind of give you a little background here. I live in Mount Pleasant with my wife. We live in a nice neighborhood right there in the middle of Mount Pleasant. And I would say that my wife and I are by far the youngest people that live in our section of our neighborhood. It's a nice section of the area. And I have this neighbor that lives across the street from me. And I've lived there for 3 years. I have never once had a conversation with this neighbor until this week. And I'm not sure why. It's very weird, actually, because I go running in my neighborhood. I see them out and about, and let's say that I'm running by this particular person, and we're within 5 feet of one another. I try to establish eye contact so that when our eyes meet, I can nod and say hello and be a nice, friendly neighbor. But every time I see this person, it's like they find something in the sky to look at, or they look at the ground, and they never acknowledge me, and I've never really understood why. I don't know what I did to this person, but apparently they don't like me. And again, we've never spoken, and we've lived across the street from one another for 3 years. But here I am when I go to check my mail earlier in the week. This is about 2:30 in the afternoon. And I'm dressed in my suit and tie. And he said, another early day in the office, huh? And I said, yep. He said, let me ask you a question. What is it exactly that you do on a day-to-day basis? And I think the reason that he had reached out to me is because I sent some marketing materials out throughout the neighborhood about what's going on in our neighborhood and why it's a good time to sell and what's happened to pricing and so on and so forth. And so he approaches me, and it's kind of confrontational in nature, quite frankly. And he says, what is it that you do every day? I see there are days where your car doesn't leave the driveway and you're always kind of in and out. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? Just a very interesting conversation coming from somebody that clearly has no interest in me, my family, in being a nice, neighborly person. And so I didn't really answer the question that he posed to me. And I said, well, I'm busy. And then I walked away. And I told my wife about it because we often laugh about how weird it is to live across these people that have just never once acknowledged us. And so it got my wheels turning a little bit in terms of, what's this guy's story? What is his perception of me as a person and also as a real estate agent? So I got to thinking about it. I'm the type of person where I have somebody do my yard. Someone cuts my yard. Someone does my landscaping. Whenever I have something going on at the house, I hire somebody to come and do it for me. Whereas he is very much so a do-it-yourselfer. He's older. He drives a nice car, lives in a nice house on the water with a boat. So clearly he does well. But it became apparent to me that he and I are on two totally different ends of the spectrum when it just comes to life in general. He is very much so a do-it-yourselfer. Whereas with me, I believe in the power of people, and I believe in leverage, and I believe that my time is valuable. I believe that my time is better spent doing things that are going to result in high levels of income for me. A perfect example was this guy was trimming a tree a few months ago and was doing it himself, and he hacked this tree to bits and pieces and finally stopped, and it looked like some sort of weird art project for about a month until he finally called somebody to take the tree down because he actually ended up killing it. But I thought it was a perfect analogy for, in my mind, the agent that doesn't hire anybody and that refuses to involve other people in their transaction and their business, and they believe that if it's going to be done, I'm the person to do it. Nobody can do it as good as I can. I'm an agent, and they're hiring me, and I have to be responsible for every single facet of this transaction, and that it falls on my shoulders to do it all. Whereas with me, I have a team of agents. I believe that there are people out there that can do things better than I can, and there are people out there that I can hire to do the exact same job that I would do, which then frees me up to spend more time focusing on the important things in this business that result in the success of my clients and in the success of my business. So it just got me to thinking that, as a real estate agent, we are really in two businesses. We are in the business of real estate, which is meeting with buyers and sellers, getting agreements so that we can work together, showing buyers property, marketing our listings for sale, writing and negotiating contracts, making sure deals get to the closing table and actually close, and then, of course, managing our business and managing the day-to-day operations of our business. But then the other facet of our business is lead generation, finding buyers for my sellers and finding sellers for my buyers, lead generation. And as a real estate agent, it is easy to do all 6 of those things that I just mentioned yourself. And that's what most real estate agents do. They are so bogged down with the business of real estate that they forget that, oh my gosh, I haven't lead generated in a month and a half because I've been so focused on the day-to-day that I need to go out there, I need to get new business. And that's why there are all these real estate agents out there that have what we call roller coaster careers. They focus on the daily grind. They never take time. And this, I think, it speaks more than just real estate. I think this is a big problem with society in general, is that they focus on the daily grind. They never take time to think for themselves. They never take time to have those introspective moments where they can focus on, all right, what am I doing well? What am I not doing well? What do I need help with? What should I be focusing on so that I am living a fulfilled life and I'm running a business worth having? And when you deal with these single agents that do it all and they refuse to have help from anybody else, they are a slave to their business. And I refuse to work that way. I've been that way. In 2011, I sold 56, 57 houses by myself with no help from anybody. And I'm not complaining about the income, but I had zero personal life. And the only way that I was able to do that is because I was married with no kids. And, it was all about, hey, let's make as much money as possible. Let's focus on work, because we want to buy a new house. Well, we bought a new house. We accomplished that goal. And I realized that I have an opportunity as a real estate agent that does well in this business to create something larger than myself. I have been blessed with the ability to do well in the career that I've chosen. And somebody said something very, very profound to me a while ago. And they said, if you have the ability to grow a business and enrich the lives of others, shame on you for not taking advantage of that God-given opportunity. And so 2 years ago, I started growing my business. I hired an assistant. Then I hired a buyer agent. Now I have 4 buyer agents and an assistant and a closing coordinator and a call coordinator. And the way that my team works is that they very much understand that they have a very specific set of tasks that they need to accomplish in order for my business to be a well-oiled machine so that we can deliver value in and above what just a normal agent does. And so it got me to thinking, of course, about this question, what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis? And there's actually a list that Keller Williams, my company, put together. And it's a list of 192 tasks that real estate agents or real estate companies need to do, whether it be a day-to-day basis or weekly or monthly or annually. And this list, if you look at it, is daunting. Feel free to contact me. I'll send you the list. You can see what we do on a day-to-day basis. But again, it's 2 businesses that we run. It's the business of finding people to work with, and then it's the business of real estate, getting them through the transaction to the best of our ability, offering good customer service, being communicative, doing what we say we're going to do, having the market knowledge and having the tools and systems in place so that it's a good transaction. There's no such thing as a stress-free transaction. I've done hundreds of them, and I'm sorry, but I have yet to find that stress-free transaction because moving is stressful. It just is. There's no way to avoid stress 100% when buying, selling, or investing in real estate. Sorry, it doesn't happen. So you prepare yourself for that. And so when I have appointments to meet with people, and the whole point of telling you this story is that when I sit down and I talk with somebody about how I choose to run my business and the benefit to the client for the way that I've set things up, it becomes very clear that my time is going to be spent with that client doing the most important things of the transaction that are going to result in their success. And I'm going to delegate the things that I can pay somebody $10, $12, $15 an hour to do that would otherwise slow me down and impede my ability to do the best job possible for them. Now, I would never have told my neighbor that because, frankly, he doesn't need to know. He's kind of a jerk, whatever. I don't know what his problem is with me. I'm a pretty likable guy, but hey, some people just, I guess some people just, I don't like that guy. I don't know why. I just don't like him. There are plenty of people out there. I have people like that I don't like. Jared, the Subway guy, is my example. I don't know what it is about him. Just don't like him. Kind of random, I know. But getting back to the point here is that when you choose to work with a team of real estate agents, there are plenty of teams out there that have put people in place to just avoid doing the things that they don't want to do. So they'll find them, they'll put them in place, but they don't train, lead, or motivate them. They're just people that are filling a gap that they don't want to do. Whereas with me, I am very much a proponent of running a successful business. And anybody listening that's entrepreneurial or that owns a company that understands that there are power in people, that's what I'm getting at. And that there is the ability for me to run a business that helps other people, not just my clients, but the people on my team live a great life. And that's what I'm all about, is working with people to help them accomplish their goals. And that's really the whole point here, is that if you're considering buying, selling, investing in real estate, I work with a team of agents that I have put together that in my mind represents the dream team. And that's one of the reasons why we've been able to double our business year over year over year and run a successful real estate company. So I think a lot of agents out there get a bad rap for running a team, and some of them have very ineffective, inefficient teams. But there are people out there that are business-minded, that are entrepreneurial at heart, that can create not just a fantastic experience for the client, but that can also help others. And that's kind of what I wish I had said to my neighbor. But anyways, I wanted to get through that soapbox topic first, because there's a lot that we as real estate agents can do for people that goes above just getting you through a transaction. And if you're considering buying or selling or investing in real estate, we would love the opportunity to meet with you, discuss your goals, and see how we can help. All right, so I'm going to get off my soapbox, and when I come back, I want to talk about seller financing. Should you consider it? What are the pitfalls to watch for? How are you going to benefit the buyer or the seller in that type of transaction? I'm going to go through all of that. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks again for joining me this morning. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, feel free to give me a call anytime. My cell phone is 843-345-1273, or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that website, you can take a look at everything that I have for sale, everything I've sold, read some testimonials from past clients, search the MLS, take a look at everything for sale in our market. Or if you're considering selling your home, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn a little bit more about what I do to market my properties for sale. And you can also learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee, which very simply states I will sell your home in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission, 4.5% commission. Some rules apply to that. If you'd like more information, again, the website, listingsincharleston.com. If you've been with me since the start of the program, sorry for going off on a bit of a tangent this morning. But again, I had a conversation with my neighbor that kind of sparked a little bit of a fire inside me as to the value of a real estate agent, because so many people think that our jobs are so easy and that, you know, half the time we're not working or we're on the beach or we're doing things other than working, when in reality, the agents that run successful businesses, it couldn't be further from the truth. And again, if you'd like a list of everything that we do, happy to share that with you. I personally have a list of 192 things that I do on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. Happy to share it with you. Listingsincharleston.com is the website to get that list. Let me switch gears. Let me talk about owner financing. You know, I always get calls on my listings from people that say, would the seller consider a rent-to-own scenario? Or would they consider seller financing? And of course, as a listing agent, I have to dig deeper and really understand, what is that buyer actually asking me? What are they asking the seller to do? So I think we first need to clarify what owner financing is. And it really means several things, because there are several ways of structuring owner financing to work to the buyer's benefit in the event they either don't have a down payment right now, or they don't have a good credit score right now, which is preventing them from getting a mortgage, which based on the National Association of Realtors is about 15% of buyers out there. I think the number should be a little bit higher, quite frankly, but that's the statistic. And so owner financing can mean a few things. Let's first start with rent to own. I think when people call and they say, hey, would the seller consider a rent to own scenario? I think what they're really asking is, hey, will the seller rent the property? And if at some point I have the ability to buy it, I want the ability to buy it at today's prices. And so what they'll do is they'll set up some sort of structure where they'll make rental payments, and a portion of that rental payment either goes toward a down payment or it goes toward a purchase price reduction. Obviously, the buyer and the seller need to agree on some certain amount of time that the buyer has to finance the property in their own name. But that's kind of option number one is, hey, we're just going to rent the property and we want you to take a portion of our rental payment and either put that toward a down payment or put it toward the purchase price so that at some point, let's say 3 years down the road, once we've cleared up our credit or other issues have passed, we have the ability to get an actual mortgage. That's probably the most common. Something a little bit, something similar would be, I want you to agree to sell the home to me, and I want you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, to act as the bank. In other words, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, if you don't have a mortgage on your property, then I want you to act as if I am paying you a mortgage. So the owner of the property is going to receive monthly payments. It's going to have interest built into those payments, just as if you were paying on a mortgage. So the benefit, of course, to the seller is receiving the interest on those payments, in addition to receiving some sort of down payment, which, of course, for them is the cushion that they need in order to feel comfortable entering into some sort of an agreement with a buyer with poor credit or with a lack of a down payment. And then at some point, they will refinance and they will get a mortgage in their own name. And at that point in time, the seller then gets to cash out and receive the full proceeds from the sale. This is a little bit more tricky because it involves having an attorney draft up documentation and a note on the property that allows the buyer to make those payments over an amortized period of time, so that they can then refinance the property in their name at some point in the future. But of course, the questions for the seller are, well, if real estate agents are involved, how am I going to pay a commission? Do I get my money on a monthly basis? What happens if you don't pay? And if I don't have a mortgage on the property, what would be the benefit to me as the seller in entering into an agreement with you and receiving payments at, let's say, 4.5% commission, or I'm sorry, not commission, but 4.5% interest or 5% interest? Whatever prevailing interest rates are is likely what the buyer is going to want to pay the seller. So here's how I would look at that if I were a seller and I were approached with an owner-financed offer. I would say, okay, I have this asset. I don't have a mortgage on the property. If the buyer is going to pay my taxes and the buyer is going to be responsible for the insurance and the upkeep of the property, and I'm going to receive payments on that asset equivalent to 4.5%, 5% interest on that asset, does it make sense for me to agree to this transaction and basically earn 4.5% on my asset? Or would I rather sell it and take the proceeds from the sale and reinvest those proceeds at something that should equate to more than 4.5% or 5% interest, whatever the interest rate is that the buyer and the seller agree to? That's how I would look at it. What's the opportunity cost for me to take this deal rather than investing those funds elsewhere? Now, for many sellers, this really isn't an option because they need to sell. They need those proceeds and they need to do something with them quickly. But for the people that don't have a mortgage on a property, that don't necessarily need those funds immediately, this can be an attractive way to sell your home, to receive interest on your home while we're waiting for the buyer to get financed. And then, oh, by the way, if they stop making payments, then guess what? You have collected all of that interest and then you get to sell it again. The only catch here is that they want you to sell it to you at today's prices. So what would happen if, as the seller, you just chose to say, you know what, I'm just going to rent it. And in many cases, you can rent it for more than a buyer's going to pay in a mortgage. Of course, the seller's going to have to pay their taxes and insurance. Hopefully you're following me on all of this. But if you're a seller, why not rent it and then sell it at some point in the future, hopefully for a higher price? And so that begs the question, what's going to happen in the future? Does it make sense for me to take this deal right now and agree to owner financing? Or is it worth it for me to hold on to it for a few years, rent it out, and then sell it when the market is maybe a little bit better? Those are the questions that I think as a seller you need to be asking yourself. And then, of course, you need to ask yourself, what happens if the buyer damages the property? You know, let's say we get 20% down from the buyer. They just don't have the credit to get a mortgage right now. Does that down payment go back to the buyer? Does the buyer have the ability to sell the house? There's a lot of questions that need to be asked here. And so when people think about rent to own or they think about owner financing, what you need to understand is that it's actually a very complex situation. And I highly advise anybody selling their property that's considering owner financing to first speak with an attorney so that you understand how all of this is going to be set up. And then you also need to speak with your accountant to understand what your basis in the property is, what's going to happen to those payments. Are you going to be taxed on them? There's a myriad of questions that need to be asked. And so I've put together a checklist of things that you need to consider if you are going to offer seller financing on your property. And I am happy to share that with anybody that's interested. If you'd like a copy of that, go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, and I'll be happy to send that report straight over to you. If you want to talk with me personally about it, give me a call, 843-345-1273. Again, go to that website, listingsincharleston.com, for the checklist of seller financing things you need to consider. Or if you're considering selling your home, click on the Sell Your Home tab. And again, ask me about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about multiple offers and how to navigate that in a seller's market. I'll be right back.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on The Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
The Big Talker, WTMA.
Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks again for joining me this morning. I want to focus now on something that happened to a client of ours in a multiple offer situation. And it's a good lesson to have learned for this particular buyer, because it tells us that there are plenty of agents out there and plenty of sellers out there that just aren't as truthful and as honest as they need to be. So here's the story. And again, if you want to contact me, if you have your own issue that you've dealt with, if you had something that happened to you and you're okay with having it shared on the radio, I'd love an opportunity to share more of these types of stories, because it's what allows you, the listener, to learn from these things, to learn from these experiences that I share with you, so that they don't happen to you, or so that you can at least be prepared and have the proper expectation going into things like buying or selling or investing in real estate, which is really what this show is all about. It's just preparing you for the world out there of real estate. So if you'd like to contact me, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. And again, if you're considering selling your house, click on that Sell Your Home tab. I've got more information on my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. Simply states, I will sell your home in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. And you can also learn more about what I do to market my properties for sale. So let me tell you what happened here. Working with a buyer, I've been working with them for a few months, and we went out to take a look at a property. It listed the previous night. It hit the MLS at 12:10 in the morning. The buyer received the update of the new listing. I received the update of the new listing at around 7 in the morning. We met at the property at around 10:30, walked through it, and made an offer cash, full price. And we submitted it to that listing agent by about 12 o'clock. And we felt comfortable making a full price offer because, frankly, the house was underpriced. And we were comfortable paying that amount for it because it represented a good deal for the clients. And it wasn't a huge amount under fair market value, but it was still a good deal. And it's exactly what they were looking for. So I present this offer to the listing agent at 12 o'clock, and I say, here are the terms of the offer. Please present this to your seller. And by the way, we would like an answer by 5 o'clock today, because I know the seller lives there. I know that they're local, and they should have the ability to take a look at this full price cash offer, realize it's a good offer, take it, and then we can go ahead and work toward closing. And we can close on it in as quickly as 10 days if you'd like. But if your seller needs more time, we're flexible on the closing time. So make the offer, tell the buyers we've made the offer, and then we wait. About 4 o'clock rolls around. I call the agent. I said, hey, just curious to know what the seller has said and whether or not we're going to be receiving this ratified contract in the next hour or so. He said, well, I sent the seller an email about it and just waiting to hear back. I said, okay, do you think we'll hear back by 5 o'clock today? I know these people are retired. They don't have a job. They're in the house. I mean, the buyer actually drove by the house and they saw the seller doing some things to the front yard. So they know they're there and they're just sitting on this offer. Well, a little bit after 5 o'clock, I called back again. I said, hey, our offer has expired. What is the seller going to do? Are they going to take our offer or not? And he said, well, I spoke to him, and we appreciate the offer. It's a good offer, and I should be back in touch with you at some point tomorrow morning. I said, okay, well, what are we waiting on? What are the issues with the offer? Let me try and address some of these concerns so that we can reach an agreement here. And he said, well, I haven't really had a good conversation with the seller yet, so let me get back to you on that. Starting to sound a little fishy, right? So the following morning rolls around, and I get an email from the listing agent saying, we are in receipt of another offer, and you have until 12 o'clock today to provide us with your highest and best offer. And oh, by the way, here is a pre-listing inspection that we had done, and we want you to waive your home inspection contingency because that's what the other buyer did. So, of course, we have two issues right now. Number one, when we looked at the property, there was a property condition disclosure statement, which is required by the state of South Carolina that every seller fill out, which details all the material facts and defects of the house, which is what we looked through. So we walk through the house, we make an informed decision based on that report, based on the condition of the property, what our eyes can see, and what's going on in the market, and we present that offer to the listing agent. Well, of course, issue number one is disclosure. The items that were found on the pre-listing inspection were not reflected on the property condition disclosure statement. That's a big issue. That's a disclosure issue. That's not okay. The second issue is that they were basically twisting our arm to waive our rights to an inspection and accept purchasing the property without an inspection and using their report. Obviously, that rubbed my buyer the wrong way, and I had to ask the very straightforward question, where was this information before we saw it yesterday? They said, well, we had just put the property on the market, and we didn't have all our ducks in a row yet, so we're giving it to you now. And if you want the property, this is what we want you to agree to. Well, obviously, the buyer and I talked, and we decided that, you know what? We don't feel comfortable purchasing a property for this amount of money. This was a high-priced home. We don't feel comfortable purchasing a property for this amount of money without having the right to first inspect it with our own inspector. And oh, by the way, the inspection that was provided to us was by some home inspector I've never heard of before. And home inspectors are a dime a dozen in any market. There are hundreds of them, I'm sure, maybe thousands, I don't know. But it's an inspector that I've never heard of, and it was just a summary of the inspection report. It didn't include all of the information that you normally get on a home inspection report, which is like 50 to 100 pages. So we have this huge gap of information missing, and we're being expected to rely upon that information to make an informed decision about purchasing this property. Because if we were to move forward and waive our inspection rights, if something was found about that property that was a major issue, we wouldn't have the right to negotiate for that. Or if we found it was too big an issue to deal with ourselves, back out of the deal. So we didn't move forward. And the point in this story is that very, very, very rarely is it okay for you as a buyer, and I preach this, very rarely is it okay for you to buy a property and not get it inspected. I went to this listing agent and said, hey, we'll do the inspection in 5 days, and we'll have contractors through there, and we'll have our inspection done, and we'll have all the information we need, but we need a little bit of time. And if you want a full price cash offer that can close in as quickly as 10 days, then you'll give us that 5 days. Well, it seemed to me, just in the dishonest approach of the real estate agent and the seller, that I felt as though they either were hiding something or they just didn't fully understand what they were doing. And in the end, they lost us as a buyer. Well, I come to find out that the property is under contract and that they actually accepted less than our offer, but the buyer was willing to waive the home inspection contingency. And there's only been one time in my life where I have agreed to have a property be sold without a home inspection contingency, and it was a property that I purchased personally to flip because I knew that there was a bunch going on at that house, and I bought it for a good enough price to where the home inspection didn't really matter all that much. And that ended up working out very favorably for me, but I also bought the property for like 40% off, which very rarely happens. I mean, that never really happens. It was such a good deal that I felt comfortable doing that. But for everyday deals, for people that are looking to buy and sell real estate, the home inspection contingency is incredibly important because it's what allows buyers to negotiate after the fact. And it's also what allows sellers to avoid a lawsuit. You know, the last thing you want to do is sell a house, not disclose a bunch of defects, and then you're tied up in a lawsuit because you didn't do what you're supposed to do, which was disclose those things to the buyer. Remember, if it's your primary residence, you live there, that's the law. So that's my little story about home inspections. It's incredibly important to get those inspections done and to also have language in the contract that clearly identifies your rights as a buyer and your rights as a seller in the event things are found that demand the attention of either party. So again, if you want some information about that, or if you've had something similar happen to you, I want to know about it. I'd like to tell your story. Feel free to call me 843-345-1273 or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the real estate market. We're going to talk about all the mixed signals out there and what's actually going on. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. Thanks again for tuning in. You know, I always like to take just a little bit of time every show to say thank you for the attention. Thank you for tuning in. I know I've got a lot of people that listen to this program on a regular basis, and couldn't be more humbled to spend some time on the air with you to share my thoughts on the market and experiences as an agent that's been doing this for a long time. And if you're considering buying, selling, or investing in real estate, feel free to reach out to me. It doesn't cost anything to have a conversation with me about how I can help you. My number is 843-345-1273, 843-345-1273. That's my personal cell phone. Or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. You can learn more about what I do to sell my homes. You can see everything that I have sold, which is a constant work in process. And you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. Basically, I'll sell your home in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. Not a bad deal. Again, listingsincharleston.com is the website for that. So we were talking before we left about the home inspection contingency and how important it is to structure an offer that protects you in the event there are things that go wrong in a transaction. And so I kind of want to springboard into my last segment here, which is all the mixed signals that seem to be out there right now about the real estate market. And I was looking for some content to discuss this weekend. And so I was, as I always do, as all radio show hosts do, we look online. We try and find some things that we feel are relevant in addition to our own experiences. And I was just looking up some real estate news, and I want to read 7 headlines that I saw online and how incredibly mixed it seems all the information out there is about real estate right now. So here are the 7 headlines, and what I want you to do if you're listening is I want you to ask yourself whether this seems to be true or not true. So which ones of these are factual, which ones did I make up? Existing pending home sales dropped 1% more than expected in August. That's number 1. Number 2, sales of new U.S. homes surged to a 6-year high in August. Number 3, August housing starts drop 14.5%. Number 4, mortgage rates dropped from a 4-month high. Number 5, experts say that interest rates will spike in the near term. Number 6, prices rose at the slowest pace in almost 2 years in August. And then number 7, prices hit a 70-month high in the month of August. Doesn't it sound a little conflicting to you? How do we take this information and make some informed decisions about what's actually going on in the real estate market right now? I will tell you that all 7 of these headlines are real. I didn't make up any of them. So as a listener, as a consumer, as somebody that's concerned about the health of our real estate market, as somebody that's considering buying, selling, or investing in real estate, that wants to stay up to date with the market, how in the world can we take all this information and draw some realistic and factual conclusions from it and have that relate to our own market. Are we up? Are we down? Is now the time to sell? Should I wait until the beginning of the year? Should I buy now? Where are interest rates? Are they going up? Are they going down? What should I do? And I think that's, of course, one of the benefits of being on the radio with you is that I get to share with you what is fact, what is fiction, separate some of the buzz from what's actually going on out there in our market. And all of these headlines that I just read are just national headlines. So you've got people like Fox News or CNBC or Realtor.com or Zillow or whoever you get your information from. You need to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. And one of the issues that I think we face right now is that we have such a demand for instant gratification. You know, we live in a world where news has to be limited to 140 characters and videos have to be only 6 seconds long, otherwise we lose our attention. And we wonder why we have this huge spike in ADD in our country. But it's because people aren't taking the time to formulate their own opinions. They're just relying on several sources to basically tell you what's happening. And the point that I want to get across with all of this is that real estate is and always will be local. Just because you read a national headline or you read something about how Houston, Texas is just going gangbusters and homes are only lasting a matter of minutes before they're receiving multiple offers, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's happening here in Charleston. And so the question you need to ask yourself is, what kind of information am I looking for? Do I want to know what my home is worth? Do I just want to keep a pulse on the market? Do I just want to know where the trends are? Maybe I'm an investor. I want to know, where are the opportunities to invest? Where is my point of entry into this market? How do I take all of this information and use it to my advantage so that I can make some wise and informed decisions about real estate? And so here's what I want to say about that. Again, real estate is and always will be local. One of the major differences between working with a real estate agent that does a ton of business and a real estate agent that stays up to date with trends in the marketplace as it specifically relates to Charleston is that you get the benefit of our knowledge and you can actually have an intelligent conversation with us about the market. And one of the most common questions that I get is, hey, Brian, how's the market? Well, it depends. What are you really asking? Are you asking me what's going on with pricing? What's going on with inventory? What's going on with interest rates? It's such a complicated question that the answer really should just be, it depends. What are your goals? And so what I want to offer to you is that if you want to stay up to date with our real estate market, if you want some personalized information about your home, about your area, feel free to contact me. I am more than happy if you just want information to do just that, just give you information. You're not going to get a high pressure sales pitch from me if all you want is to stay up to date with this market, which is the point of this show, by the way, is to keep you up to date with what's going on out there so that you're an informed consumer. And real estate depends on where you live in Charleston. It depends on your price range in Charleston. It can depend as much as which neighborhood you live in. It can even go as far as to where do you live in that neighborhood. Street by street is a little bit different in some areas of Charleston. So if you want information on what's going on in our market outside of just this program, because once a month I really focus on the stats, but it's really more county by county, let's get together, let's talk about what your goals are, and let me set you up with this awesome software program I have that's just going to keep you up to date with information in your area. And every once in a while I'll send you a note saying, hey, this listing just popped up, it's similar to yours. I would venture a guess that your home is worth somewhere between X and Y. Doesn't cost you anything to do that. More than happy to provide you with that information. The website to register at, listingsincharleston.com. Fill out your information. Again, you're not going to get a high pressure sales pitch from me if all you want is info and just to stay up to date with the market. It's part of the service that I offer as a top producing real estate agent in this area. So again, listingsincharleston.com, or feel free to give me a call if you want some personalized attention. You want to talk about your goals and maybe you're considering selling your house. My number, 843-345-1273. Thanks again for listening, Charleston. I really appreciate being on the air and sharing all this information with you. Have a great weekend. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.